sometimes paddling in an urban environment, you have to adapt, improvise, and overcome. I'm actually in parking for Old Dominion University, and it looks like there's a boat ramp here that we're going to check out and see if we can get access to. But what's making me think I can actually park here is this sign, which says that I can text or use an app to pay for parking here. So we're going to give that a shot, but let's see what the put-in looks like. So there is a boat ramp. It's low tide and it's very moss covered, so I don't like the look of that. But here to the right is just a little bit of sand. And that's where we're gonna go, right down there. Okay, but the thing that I want to talk about today is not parking illegally in Norfolk so that I can go paddling. I don't think I am illegal, but you never know. What I want to talk about is something that comes up pretty frequently when I'm dealing with in-the-flesh students. Is one of the first things students ask, because they're trained to ask this, is, are you an ACA instructor? And the answer is, I am not an ACA instructor. Let's talk about why. So there are both personal and professional and financial reasons that I am not a member of the ACA. And so let's talk about those. The personal reason is that before I became a paddling instructor, I became a paramedic. And to become a paramedic, at least in the state of New York, where I did it, you get a bunch of different certifications, and then you take a final exam, and you do a bunch of practical hours. But sort of our progress was marked by certifications that we got: advanced cardiac life support, pre-hospital trauma life support, pediatric advanced life support, things like that. And when I was done with it, I had all of these certification cards, and I sort of vowed to myself, I am never going like certification hunting again. I'm just not doing it. That was part of the problem, is this chain of never-ending certifications, which if you go to the ACA website, you will see it is a chain of never-ending certifications. I should, for clarity's sake, say ACA is the American Canoe Association, and it is the governing body of paddle sports in the United States. I decided that I didn't want to sort of play that certification hunting game. The byproduct was that I was not ACA certified. And what I said to myself was, as soon as I don't get a job because I'm not ACA certified, I'll start that process and get ACA certified. And that was 18 years ago. And I have never not gotten a job or had a student say, yeah, I don't want to work with you because you're not ACA. So that's the personal reason why I never became an ACA instructor. The professional reason that I'm not an ACA instructor is part of my job with REI was to hire and train paddling instructors. I worked with a bunch of them, all good people. Some were good instructors, some were not. Like any instructor, it varies person to person. I didn't see that the ACA was making people particularly better paddlers or better instructors. If there's no benefit in terms of that, then I don't really see the point. Now, that's not to say if I were working with another instructor as I was his student, I'm sure I would pick up great things. But that brings us to the third reason, which is financial. It's really expensive. Let's get on the water, and I'll talk about why it's so expensive. Absolutely loving this. security just drove past me and did the same thing. So I'm thinking I'm okay. This may be my new favorite put-in, assuming I don't get towed. Which I don't think I will. I think I'm good. I paid for parking, right? Talking about ACA, and we were talking about, man, I just don't have the money. And it's many, 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 many layers. The first thing is that you can't just take an ACA course and be certified at that level. And this is both, there are instructor courses and there are just paddler courses. So you can take an ACA level 1, and they all have special names like coastal kayak or river kayak or sea kayak or whatever. They all have different sort of names, but let's just make it simple because I can't remember them. After spending like an hour on the ACA website, I can't remember them all. But let's just say there's an ACA level 1 course. It's like a 2-day course, and you pay to take the 2-day course. Then you have to take, and I think they call it an assessment course, and they assess your skills so that you can then pass that. So you might say, Brett, someone like you who's been paddling at, I think, a fairly high level, why can't you just take the assessment course? Well, this is what I was told by more than one person, more than one ACA instructor. They were like, you can do that, but there's no way you'll pass. That is super frustrating to me. A lot of certifications, if you've had them or if you have equivalent experience, will let you do what's called challenge out. Let me challenge out on skills, you see where I am. ACA won't do that. I've had a number of instructors say to me on the sly, if you do that with me, I'm certified up to this level and I'll assess you, but it's on the sly. It's not like a standard thing. And that's kind of messed up. There is like a squall line, I think, right in front of me, and it's about to hit. So that means that despite the fact that I've been paddling for more than 20 years, I've paddled all over the world, in all sorts of conditions, and I think we're about to see some. So I'm feeling a rush of cold air, which is generally leading a squall like I think I'm seeing. Let's see if it materializes in the next few seconds. Even someone like me with, decades of experience, I have to go through every level to do a training, then do an assessment to get certified at that level. And if I look at the levels, I think I'm like a level 4 coastal kayaker. That's thousands of dollars that I don't have and don't need to spend. Now, before someone gets pissed off, someone who spent a lot of money on ACA stuff, I think that if you've done ACA, and I know people who do ACA and love it and have admitted to me, oh yeah, it's a money grab, but I like being checked out. I like someone saying, no, you can do this better. And that's always a good thing to do. And I do that as well with other paddlers. For instance, when I went to Alaska in May for that kayaking seminar, one of the things I was excited about was to have paddlers who were far more experienced than me look at what I'm doing and say, hey, try it like this. And we had those conversations, and it was super helpful. So in that sense, I think it's good. But for me, it doesn't really make sense. Okay? So, but here's how that plays out. A prospective client comes to me and says, I'm interested in doing lessons with you. Are you an ACA certified instructor? Because everything that you read in kayaking says make sure that your instructor is certified. To which my response is, I'm not an ACA certified instructor, but then I have to explain all the reasons why I'm not. It might just be a really weird fog layer I'm about to enter. So then I have to go through that whole process of explaining why I am not an ACA instructor. I have yet to have someone say, okay, I don't want to do lessons with you because you're not ACA. And in fact, I've had students do lessons with me and then go do ACA and then come back to me and say,
I really prefer the way that you teach, and I really prefer your method over the ACA method. And that's another sort of issue that I have. We're going to go back to the personal level. ACA is very rigid. These are the things that we teach, and these are the way that we teach them, and you've got to do it that way. And that's not really how I operate. If you've taken lessons with me, there are very few things that I am dogmatic about. And finally, there is sort of the last piece to this puzzle for me. ACA used to have a thing in its qualifications that irked me, that's no longer in their qualifications, and that would seem like a good thing, but in fact it's a bad thing, and I'll explain why. So the thing that irked me, visibility is not great here. The thing that irked me was at each level you had to do this much sort of journeying, you had to do like this kind of trip. But at the highest level it was you had to have 2 weeks of paddling in 2 different locations. So I don't recall if that was a week in each location or 2 weeks in each location. But at the most it was a month of paddling, of real paddling. And in prepping to do this video, I spent, as I mentioned, a lot of time on the ACA website, and I couldn't find any reference to paddlers needing actual real-world experience. And that, to me, was the scariest thing. I think there's a big difference. There's a big difference between learning how to roll a kayak in a pool and learning how to and rolling a kayak in surf because the shit has hit the fan. As I think about it, I suspect the problem was fewer and fewer instructor candidates had the ability to do that kind of time on the water. So for reference, that's like one trip for me, 2 weeks in Alaska. Yeah. So yeah. That troubles me. So when I look for someone who's teaching me, I want to know their resume, and it's not, are they ACA or BCU, which is the British version of ACA, and I think a much better program. I want to know, where have you paddled? What sort of conditions have you seen? What sort of situations have you been in? That's who I want to paddle with. It's the difference to me between book learning and real world living. That's sort of how I feel about ACA. Yeah, I'm not digging the visibility at sea level where I am right now is not great. If I were a full-size boat, it would be no problem, but there is a layer of fog hanging right above the water, really on the water, and it's because the water is so cold, water is really cold, and the air is so warm that we're getting this fog. Visibility at my level is about 150 yards, which is probably okay, but it's making me a little nervous. Other than that, conditions are beautiful. Dead flat calm. Yeah. But I am a blip compared to the ships on this water. So that's sort of how I feel about ACA. As I said, I've worked with ACA instructors who are great. I've worked with ACA instructors who are not great. And so I just don't think that it's the defining end-all, be-all of paddling. I think if that's the realm that your brain works in, I like that sort of structured environment in terms of learning. I think that's great, but I really think you've got to balance it with real world stuff. So as I mentioned, there's BCU, which is the British Canoe Union, which I think is a really nice program. And there is Paddle Canada, which is also, I've worked with Paddle Canada instructors. That sounds like an amazing program. And I'm sure I will get comments, and that's fine. I'm sure I will get comments, people saying, oh, that's not what ACA is really like, or that wasn't my experience with ACA. And that's fair, that's valid. My experience could be different than your experience, and I've not done an ACA course. I've only talked to people who have done ACA courses, and I've researched taking courses over a matter of years. You know, at different periods I was like, maybe I should do this, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. But I've talked to a lot of people who've done them. I've worked with the ACA instructors, and I've read the ACA website. So maybe it's a great experience that I'm missing out. Let me know down in the comments. Okay, so I am going to turn around. I'm still relatively close to shore, but I'm about a mile and change from my put-in, and my fog is getting significantly thicker. I just saw something come out of the fog that I didn't know was there, and so this is a good, like, as much as I'd love to paddle more, this is beautiful. I don't feel this is safe, compounded by the fact that I forgot my VHF. If I had my VHF, I would feel a little bit better, but we're going to turn around and head back to the van. Fog is definitely getting worse, so time to head back. thought it was shallow before. It is even worse now. We're gonna get out and walk. Okay, so that's my 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents on ACA. My thoughts on it. If you're doing it, you're loving it, that's great. Let me know what your experiences are down below. But yeah, not a good fit for me. Might be a good fit for you. Otherwise, I'll see you outside.
You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry.